We're back with part 2 of our reflections from the World Brewers Championship in Boston. And here I want to talk about preparation and practice. I mean, one can argue that my preparation started 1 year ago. I knew when competing in, or 2 years ago maybe, I know when competing for the Brazil World Championship and the national there, I knew the competitions would be very close together. Just a few months apart, Brazil and Boston. So my goal was really to kind of make it big in Boston, which we didn't manage to do, but that was the goal in the process. So, but a bit more specific. So how do I actually approach these kind of things? What do I practice on? I mean, we obviously have two parts of the competition, being the open service and the compulsory service. We're going to go into more to details here. I really just want to generalize like our practicing with who, and so on and so on. So basically since the last 4 months, I've been practicing every day. When I say every day, I mean a relatively limited short amount of time. So I've been basically practicing for roughly 40 minutes every single day, which usually contains 2 presentations. Those presentations are not in front of anyone, they're actually just in front of myself. These days I don't necessarily record myself that often. I do that every once in a while just to see if I'm on track. But I think interestingly, what I usually do is I practice my pouring and I practice the presentation in general. I practice, which I think has been very helpful. I've been practicing doing wrong things. So I've been practicing what happens if my water kettle is not where it should be in terms of temperature. I've been practicing what happens if I drop this. I've been practicing what happens if I only have 2, doses and not 3 that I need. What happens if I do different stupid mistakes? And I think the more you practice on those, the more you get secure. The more you know that if I stand on the stage and something happens on the Worlds, I'm going to be able to deal with that. I made a conscious decision not to do it in front of everyone. It's the same with Brazil. I do my presentation in front of, I do it once in front of people before I compete. And that's always basically bringing in Capo from Cupping Room because he's amazing. I know that his feedback is really valid. I haven't had the opportunity of working with him as a coach, or I haven't really worked with a coach. I use a lot of different people to kind of just ask questions, have them taste what I do. But I'm also very aware of the fact that I believe competition needs to be or is always a sum or a representation of where you are now. So it's a very personal thing competing. I don't mind working with coaches. I've seen other competitors become a lot better with coaches. I think that's a solid approach to have. I just don't necessarily think it's my approach to have. So preparation and practice has really been, tiny sessions of practice leading up to the competition. Not necessarily increasing or decreasing that amount, really keeping it straightforward. During the days in Boston, I did the same thing. So I kept on my 40 kind of minute rule. That was the same on competition day as well, just to kind of prepare myself and also, keep my mind focused and show it that it's, this is just what I'm doing every single day. It's nothing different. I think this is a mindset thing, and I think that practicing properly will lead you up to that. And if you get to that point, you're going to get really, really comfortable and focused on stage. It's been a lot of mental work, perhaps more so than actual physical coffee work. Mental work in the sense that, in the World Championship, everyone has amazing coffees. Everyone has amazing presentations. It's about who can crystallize that in those 10 minutes of the first round and then qualify, right? It's about who can bring out the best version of what they do right then and there. That's the main thing. And I think to be able to do that, you need to be in the right headspace. You need to have focused and practiced on that. And you need to believe in the sense that you can win. I always say, and I've said to many people asking me before the competition, how will it go in Boston and what is your goal? And our goal was to win. I mean, we obviously didn't succeed with that, which kind of sucks, but that was our goal. And it's a twofold process, because it's not about us being pretentious and think that we're so much better than other people. It's about, on one hand, realize that if you want to win this, you need to believe in the fact that you can win, and you need to practice on a level that will generate those results. On the second hand, you need perspective, and you need to realize that it's difficult to compete. There's a lot of variables you don't control. You can only control your own performance. You can't control what other people do. So therefore, you're more likely not to win, right? Which is a different part of it. But you need to be able to have two balances. You can't be arrogant because there's so much to learn, there's so much to understand, and you need to learn that to become better. But you also can't be going up to the world being like, oh, I'm just gonna have fun. Or you can, but you're not gonna win, right? So the people that practice more than you do, the people that invest more than you do, they're gonna win. And that's how it is, and that's how it should be, I believe, as well. Because it's the World Championship, right? It's difficult. It's about actually bringing your A game. It's about showing the world what can we do in terms of coffee. How can we make coffee taste? So I think that's a really important part. Then again, we're all different, and it's a very personal thing in terms of how you want to prepare. But I mean, prepare, because it's not going to become easier. And as we said in the previous video as well, it's a big difference from your national and the World Championship. So you really kind of need to step up the game. I think one of the hardest part in Brazil, and I'm not necessarily saying that I succeeded with that as well, is that you really need to find your kind of everyday groove, basing from you need to eat the same, sleep the same, train the same. I know we're not doing sports here, but it's still, you need to be in a good peace of mind. You need to have good focus. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do your best version up on stage. That's just not the case, right? So you need to be very comfortable. Surround yourself with people that you trust and you can do good shit for you. A big part of the preparation has been also obviously practicing on the compulsory, which we did fairly wrong there. We're gonna have a separate compulsory video, so we're going more in depth there. But for compulsory, what we did is that we practiced on the kind of coffees that we thought it would be there, which is washed coffees, roasted to a certain degree according to the rules. And we went there and we found something very different, and then that made it very complicated, right? But you live and you learn, and now we know that. The main focus have really been practicing on the open service. The open service is important. Make sure your compulsory is down and versatile. Simple stuff, as in when I practice for my open service, I don't use any coffee. Don't mix, let's say, preparation or presentation practice with taste practice. They're two very different things, and if you're trying to do everything every single round you do, you're gonna be in there for ages. And you're going to be so high on caffeine that you don't even know what you're doing. So most of my training has been pouring in basically empty filters, or empty ceramic filters with a paper filter in, to just keep the flow rate relatively similar. So just practicing my pouring, making sure that it's within the right time. Practice the whole presentation, but without wasting coffee, which is kind of a good thing. And again, make it difficult for yourself. Don't practice on the best scenarios. If we had the best scenarios, everything would be super easy. Practice on what happens if I do this wrong? What happens if I do this wrong? What do I do if my brews are 1 minute longer than I intended? What do I do if this happened? What do I do if this happened? Maybe I forgot to rinse my filters. How do I deal with that, right? So practice on the mistakes that can actually happen when you're there on stage. And practice continuously rather than doing everything at the same time. Again, it's up to you guys how you want to do it, but I've always believed in, again, this goes back to Capo, which said something that for me changed everything in terms of competing. Where he basically said, well, Patrik, competing is about showcasing where you are now. As in, you're never better than where you are now, meaning that it needs to be a representation, or it is a representation of how good are you on a daily basis, right? So you need to incorporate, if you want to win, you need to act and brew and deal with coffee as someone that would win on every single day. You can't just wait to do that on 2 days in a competition. And I think with that comes a confidence and a security in your presentation that I think is really interesting. So, you know, so competing is a representation of how good you are, and you need to own up to that, right? We didn't win, that means we're not the best in the world, which kind of sucks. But now we know that, realizing that there's stuff we need to get better at, and then I'll make sure to get better at that, right? So we can always learn. We can always learn from anyone, whether it's people that are better than you, worse than you, the same level on you, right? And you need to accept that and embrace that as a concept. So that was what I had about preparation and practice. Thank you guys for watching as always.